Before boarding the ship, Avon caught a glimpse of Lyra once more. She stood near the entrance ramp, her expression unreadable. Their eyes met briefly, and for the first time, Avon noticed something in her gaze, a hint of vulnerability hidden beneath her composed exterior. Was she as uncertain as he was? Did she harbor doubts about her decision? Or was she simply waiting to see how this gamble would play out? As Avon stepped onto the alien vessel, the hum of its engines reverberated through his body. Behind him, the sounds of Earth faded away. The shouts of reporters, the murmurs of onlookers, the distant wail of sirens. Ahead lay only the unknown. Taking a deep breath, Avon reminded himself of one thing. Whatever happened next, he would face it head-on. After all, he had nothing left to lose. The moment the ramp sealed shut behind Avon, the alien ship came alive with a low, resonant hum. The interior was unlike anything he had ever seen or even imagined. The walls shimmered faintly, as though they were made of liquid light, and patterns shifted across their surfaces like waves on water. There were no visible doors or windows, only smooth curves that seemed to stretch endlessly in every direction. Gravity itself felt unstable. One moment Avon's feet were firmly planted on the ground, and the next, he felt as though he were floating slightly off the floor. Lyra led him deeper into the vessel without speaking. Her movements were fluid, almost weightless, as if she belonged here in a way Avon never could. She didn't glance back at him, but her presence radiated calm authority. Avon, however, struggled to keep up, not just physically, but emotionally. His mind raced with questions. Where were they going? How long would the journey take? What awaited him on Lyra's homeworld? Each step forward filled him with equal parts fear and curiosity. As they walked, Avon noticed other aliens moving about the ship. They all shared the same golden-hued skin and glowing eyes, but each individual carried themselves differently. Some moved briskly, others glided serenely, and a few paused to observe Avon with quiet interest. None spoke directly to him, but their telepathic whispers brushed against his thoughts, fragments of words and emotions he couldn't fully comprehend. It was disorienting, like being surrounded by voices speaking a language he didn't know. Eventually, Lyra stopped in front of what appeared to be an open archway. Beyond it lay a chamber bathed in soft, multicolored light. "This is your quarters," she said finally, her voice entering Avon's mind rather than his ears. It was calm and measured, yet carried an undertone of something deeper, perhaps curiosity, perhaps caution. "Rest. We will arrive soon." Avon stepped inside hesitantly. The room adjusted itself around him, reshaping its form to accommodate his human frame. A bed-like structure materialized beneath him, along with a surface resembling a table. Everything pulsed gently, responding to his presence as though the ship itself were alive. He sat down heavily, overwhelmed by the strangeness of it all. For the first time since the aliens arrived, he allowed himself a moment to breathe. Over the course of the journey, Avon began piecing together bits of information about Lyra's people. Through fragmented conversations, both telepathic and observed, he learned that they called themselves the Exetherians. Their society valued emotional connection above all else. They believed that true progress came not from technology or wealth, but from understanding and empathy. This explained why they sought companionship rather than resources during their travels across galaxies. But despite this noble philosophy, Avon couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to Lyra's decision than altruism. One evening, or what passed for evening aboard the ship, Lyra joined him unexpectedly. She entered his quarters without warning, her luminous eyes locking onto his. Avon tensed instinctively, unsure of what to expect. To his surprise, she didn't demand answers or explanations. Instead, she simply sat across from him, studying him with an intensity that made him feel both exposed and oddly comforted. "You are different," she said after a long silence. Her words weren't accusatory, merely observational. "Not like the others." "What others?" Avon asked cautiously. "You mean, the people you could have chosen?" She nodded. "They clamor for attention. They seek validation. You do not. Even frowned, unsure how to respond. Was she complimenting him, criticizing him, or simply stating facts? Before he could ask, Lyra continued, "My people believe humans possess untapped potential, resilience, creativity, empathy. I saw glimpses of those qualities in you when I chose you." It was a day like any other in the bustling city of New Haven. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows over skyscrapers and crowded streets. People hurried about their lives, some rushing to work, others grabbing coffee or scrolling through their phones. No one paid much attention to the faint hum that began to fill the air. At first, it sounded like distant thunder, but as it grew louder, heads turned upward. A massive object descended from the heavens, blotting out the sun. It was an alien ship, a colossal vessel shaped like a teardrop, its surface shimmering with iridescent hues that seemed to shift and dance under the light. The entire city froze. Cars screeched to a halt. Pedestrians stopped mid-step, and even birds ceased their chirping. For a moment, there was only silence, broken only by the soft hum of the ship's engines. The craft hovered several hundred feet above the ground, radiating an aura of both awe and unease. Its sheer size dwarfed everything around it, making the tallest buildings look like toys. Cameras flashed as people scrambled to capture the surreal sight on their phones. Social media exploded with questions, theories, and panic. Was this an invasion? A message from beyond the stars? Or something entirely unexpected? After what felt like an eternity, a bright beam of light shot down from the belly of the ship, illuminating a wide circle in the heart of the city square. From within the glowing column emerged figures, aliens. They were tall and slender, with skin that reflected light like liquid gold. Their eyes glowed softly, exuding an otherworldly calm. They moved gracefully, almost floating, as if untouched by gravity. Each step they took left faint ripples in the air, as though reality itself bent slightly in their presence. At the forefront stood a young female alien who seemed different from the rest. She carried herself with quiet confidence, her gaze sweeping across the sea of astonished faces below. Her name, transmitted telepathically to those nearby, was Lyra. Unlike her companions, she wore no adornments or symbols of rank. Yet there was something regal about her, an unspoken authority that commanded attention. Behind Lyra, another alien stepped forward, his voice resonating in everyone's minds without words being spoken aloud. "We come in peace," he announced, his tone steady and reassuring. "Our purpose is not conquest, nor destruction. We seek exchange." The crowd murmured nervously. Exchange. What could these beings possibly want from humanity? The alien continued, explaining that his people had traveled across galaxies in search of meaningful connections. They offered wealth beyond imagination, advanced technology, cures for diseases, solutions to Earth's most pressing problems. But in return, they sought companionship. Not just anyone would do. They wanted individuals who embodied qualities they admired: creativity, resilience, and emotional depth. As the announcement sank in, excitement rippled through the crowd. Everyone expected riches. People began whispering frantically, speculating who might be chosen. Wealthy entrepreneurs, brilliant scientists, charismatic leaders, all seemed likely candidates. Some even pushed forward, trying to catch the aliens' attention. Reporters shouted questions, while government officials scrambled to establish communication protocols. But then, something unexpected happened. Lyra raised her hand, holding aloft a small glowing orb. The light pulsed gently, casting intricate patterns onto the pavement below. Slowly, deliberately, she scanned the crowd. Her luminous eyes lingered on face after face, as if searching for something specific. The tension in the air became palpable. Who would she choose? Would it be someone famous, someone wealthy, someone extraordinary? Finally, her gaze stopped. She pointed, not at a billionaire, not at a celebrity, but at a man standing near the edge of the crowd. He was average in every way. Medium height, plain clothes, unremarkable features. His name was Evan Carter, though few knew him personally. Even blinked in confusion, certain he must have misunderstood. Why would they pick him? He wasn't special. He wasn't important. He was just ordinary. Whispers erupted around him, growing louder and more frenzied. Cameras swiveled toward him, capturing his stunned expression. He even felt the weight of thousands of eyes on him, and for a moment, he thought he might faint. Before he could process what was happening, security personnel appeared, ushering him forward. Protesters shouted demands, reporters fired off rapid-fire questions, and strangers reached out to touch him, as if he were some kind of prophet. Lyra watched silently, her expression unreadable. There was no fanfare, no explanation. Just a simple gesture, one finger extended, pointing directly at Evan. And with that single act, the course of his life changed forever. Evan Carter had always lived a quiet, predictable life. At 28, he worked as an accountant for a mid-sized firm in New Haven, spending his days buried under mounds of spreadsheets and invoices. His evenings were spent watching reruns of old sitcoms or scrolling aimlessly through social media. He dreamed of adventure, of breaking free from the monotony of his existence. But deep down, he never truly believed it would happen. Adventure was something that happened to other people, not someone like him. Now, standing at the center of a global spectacle with thousands of eyes glued to him, Evan felt completely out of his depth. As security personnel ushered him toward the glowing beam emanating from the alien ship, he struggled to make sense of what was happening. The cacophony of voices around him, reporters shouting questions, protesters yelling demands, strangers whispering theories, was overwhelming. Every step he took felt surreal, as though he were walking through a dream he couldn't wake up from. Once inside the designated secure zone, set up hastily by government officials, Evan found himself surrounded by scientists, military officers, and diplomats. They bombarded him with questions, their faces tense and expectant. Why did Lyra choose you? What makes you special? Do you have any idea why they're here? Evan shook his head repeatedly, unable to offer answers. How could he explain something he didn't understand himself? A tall woman in a crisp suit introduced herself as Dr. Evelyn Hart, the lead scientist assigned to analyze the situation. She studied Evan intently, her sharp gaze scrutinizing every detail about him. "You don't look extraordinary," she said bluntly, jotting notes on a tablet. "No advanced degrees, no remarkable achievements. So why you?" Her words stung, but Evan couldn't argue. He wasn't extraordinary. He hadn't achieved anything noteworthy. Yet somehow, an alien girl named Lyra had singled him out among billions of humans. The thought made his head spin. Meanwhile, Lyra remained aloof, observing silently from a distance. Her golden skin shimmered faintly under the artificial lights of the secure facility, and her glowing eyes seemed to pierce straight through walls. When one of the officials approached her, attempting to ask questions telepathically, a method they'd discovered worked best, she responded curtly, "Take him to my homeworld." Now, her insistence sparked heated debates among the assembled authorities. Sending a single human aboard an alien spacecraft was unprecedented and risky. What if this was a trap? What if Evan's departure caused panic among the general public? But Lyra refused to negotiate. Without Evan, she declared, there would be no exchange, no wealth, no technology, no cures. Humanity's hopes rested on one ordinary man. As arguments raged around him, Evan retreated into his thoughts. He replayed the moment when Lyra pointed at him over and over again, searching for clues he might have missed. Had he done something unusual before she chose him? Said something? Made eye contact? Nothing came to mind. He remembered standing near the edge of the crowd, feeling invisible, just another face in the sea of humanity. That invisibility, he realized now, might have been exactly what drew Lyra's attention. Hours passed in a blur of interrogations, medical tests, and briefings. Scientists poked and prodded Evan, running scans to ensure he posed no threat to the aliens, or vice versa. Military personnel briefed him on protocols should anything go wrong during the journey. Diplomats coached him on how to represent Earth with dignity. Through it all, Even felt like a pawn in a game he barely understood. Finally, late into the night, the decision was made. Even would accompany Lyra back to her homeworld. There was no turning back. The world was watching, and failure wasn't an option. As preparations began, Even was given a moment alone to process everything. Sitting on a cold metal bench in a sterile holding room, he stared blankly at the floor. Fear gnawed at him. Fear of the unknown. Fear of leaving behind everything familiar. Fear of disappointing everyone who pinned their hopes on him. But beneath the fear, there was also a flicker of excitement. For years, Even had longed for something more than his mundane routine. Now, whether he liked it or not, he was stepping into a story far bigger than himself. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about humanity's first real interaction with an alien species, and somehow, improbably, he was at the center of it. But why me specifically? Even pressed. There must have been someone better. Someone smarter, stronger. Better is subjective, Lyra interrupted softly. I chose you because you stood apart, because you did not try to stand out. Her cryptic response left Even more confused than before. Did she mean that his ordinariness was what set him apart? Or was there something else she wasn't telling him? He wanted to ask more, but Lyra rose to her feet and exited the room as suddenly as she'd arrived, leaving Even alone with his thoughts. As the days, or cycles, as Lyra referred to them, passed, Even grew more accustomed to life aboard the ship. Meals were provided in forms he barely recognized, yet somehow satisfied his hunger. Time seemed to blur, as though the ship existed outside normal concepts of day and night. Even spent much of his time observing the Exetherians, trying to learn their customs and mannerisms. They communicated primarily through telepathy, their minds connected in ways that transcended spoken language. Though Even couldn't fully participate in these exchanges, he picked up snippets of emotion, joy, concern, determination that gave him insight into their world. Despite their advanced nature, Even noticed moments of vulnerability among the Exetherians. Some whispered anxiously about tensions brewing within their ranks, disagreements over whether choosing a human companion was wise. Others avoided looking at Even altogether, their discomfort palpable. It became clear that Lyra's decision hadn't been universally accepted. Even wondered if she faced consequences for selecting him. A mere mortal instead of someone more impressive. Through it all, Even found himself growing closer to Lyra. Though she remained guarded, there were small gestures that hinted at a softer side. The lingering glance, a brief smile, a gentle nod of approval when Even showed initiative. These moments reassured him that he wasn't entirely alone in this strange new world. By the time the ship approached Xaetheris, Even felt a mix of anticipation and dread. He had left Earth behind, trading familiarity for uncertainty. Yet he also sensed that this journey marked the beginning of something extraordinary, not just for him, but for humanity as a whole. Whatever awaited him on Lyra's homeworld, Even knew one thing for certain. He wouldn't face it alone. The moment the alien ship pierced through the atmosphere of Xaetheris, Even felt a shift in the air. Or perhaps it was something deeper, a subtle vibration that resonated through his very bones. The journey had been surreal, filled with strange sensations and fleeting glimpses into the lives of Lyra's people. But now, as the ship descended toward the planet below, everything about this new world seemed to pulse with life. When the vessel finally landed, Even stepped out cautiously, his breath catching in his throat. What greeted him was unlike anything he'd ever seen or imagined. Xaetheris was breathtakingly beautiful, almost too perfect to be real. Towering crystalline structures rose from the ground like natural formations, their surfaces refracting sunlight into dazzling rainbows. Rivers of luminous liquid wound through lush landscapes, glowing softly as though infused with starlight. The sky above shimmered in hues of lavender and gold, and the air carried a faint, sweet fragrance that reminded Even of spring mornings back on Earth. Despite the awe-inspiring scenery, Even couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. As he followed Lyra down a winding path lined with bioluminescent plants, he noticed figures emerging from the shadows. Other Scytherians who observed him with quiet curiosity. Some wore flowing garments that seemed to ripple like water, while others were adorned with intricate patterns etched directly onto their golden skin. Their glowing eyes followed his every move, making him feel both welcome and scrutinized. Lyra led Even to a gathering area where a group of elders awaited them. These individuals stood apart from the rest, their presence commanding respect. Their skin shimmered brighter than the others, and their movements exuded an ancient wisdom. One elder stepped forward, addressing Evan telepathically. His voice echoed in Evan's mind, calm yet authoritative. "You are the chosen one," the elder said. "Tell us, human, why do you think Lyra selected you?" Evan hesitated, unsure how to respond. He glanced at Lyra, hoping for guidance, but her expression remained unreadable. Taking a deep breath, he replied honestly, "I don't know why she chose me. I'm just ordinary." The elder tilted his head slightly, considering Evan's words. "Ordinary is subjective. Perhaps your lack of pretense is what sets you apart." Before Evan could process the comment, another elder spoke up, her tone sharper than the first. "Do not mistake tolerance for acceptance. This decision has sparked controversy among our people. Many question whether humans are worthy of such trust." Her words sent a ripple of unease through the crowd. Whispers spread, some hostile, others intrigued. Even felt the weight of their judgment pressing down on him. He wasn't just representing himself, he was representing all of humanity. The realization made his chest tighten. Lyra intervened then, stepping between Avon and the elders. Her voice rang clear and firm in everyone's minds. "He is here because I deemed him worthy. Questioning my choice undermines the purpose of this alliance." Her declaration silenced the murmurs, though not without lingering tension. The elders exchanged glances before nodding reluctantly. For now, they would accept Lyra's decision, but Even knew this was only the beginning of the challenges ahead. Over the next few days, Even was introduced to various aspects of Scytherian culture. He learned that their society operated on principles of harmony and emotional connection. Technology existed, but it was secondary to relationships and shared experiences. Art played a central role in their daily lives, with music, dance, and visual expressions serving as conduits for emotions too complex to articulate verbally. Even marveled at performances where dancers moved in unison, their bodies creating intricate light patterns that told stories without words. Yet not everyone embraced Evan's presence. Some Scytherians viewed him with suspicion, believing that choosing the human companion diluted their traditions. During one particularly tense encounter, a young Scytherian named Kale confronted Evan openly. "You are weak," Kale accused, his thoughts piercing Evan's mind like daggers. "Your kind clings to fear and greed. How can you possibly understand us?" Evan flinched under the verbal assault, but forced himself to remain calm. "Maybe I don't understand everything about your world," he admitted, "but I'm here to learn. Isn't that what this exchange is supposed to be about?" Kale sneered but didn't press further. Though the interaction left Evan shaken, it also strengthened his resolve. If he wanted to prove himself, he couldn't afford to shrink away from conflict. Amidst the challenges, Evan found moments of solace with Lyra. She began sharing fragments of her own life with him. Her upbringing within a prestigious lineage tasked with forging intergalactic alliances, the pressures placed upon her by her elders, and her growing disillusionment with rigid expectations. Through these conversations, Evan realized that Lyra's choice hadn't been entirely random. While she may have picked him partly to defy convention, there was more to it. She saw potential in him, a quiet strength that others overlooked. One evening, as they walked along a river of glowing liquid, Lyra stopped abruptly and turned to face Evan. "Do you regret coming here?" she asked, her voice softer than usual. Even thought carefully before answering. "It's overwhelming, and sometimes scary. But no, I don't regret it. This feels important, like I'm part of something bigger than myself." Lyra studied him for a long moment, her glowing eyes reflecting the river's light. Then she smiled faintly, the first genuine smile Even had seen from her. It was small, but it meant everything. As Evan gazed out at the shimmering horizon of Cytheris, he understood that this was only the beginning. The road ahead would be fraught with challenges, but he was ready to face them. Whatever happened next, he knew he wouldn't be alone. As Evan settled into life on Cytheris, he began to uncover layers of complexity that went far beyond the shimmering beauty of the planet. The initial awe had worn off, replaced by a growing awareness of the political and cultural tensions simmering beneath the surface. Lyra's choice to bring him here had sparked more than curiosity. It had ignited debates, rivalries, and even outright hostility among her people. Even quickly realized that proving his worth wasn't just about adapting to this new world. It was about navigating its intricate social dynamics. One day, while accompanying Lyra to a council meeting, Even overheard fragments of heated discussions. The elders were divided. Some argued that bringing a human companion could foster deeper understanding between species, fulfilling their mission of emotional connection. Others saw Even as a liability, a symbol of rebellion against tradition that threatened the stability of their society. These disagreements weren't whispered behind closed doors. They played out openly in front of Even, making him feel like both an outsider and a pawn in a larger game. After the meeting, Even confronted Lyra privately. "Why didn't you tell me how controversial this was?" he asked, frustration creeping into his voice. "Everyone expects me to fail. They think I'm not good enough." Lyra hesitated before responding, her glowing eyes softening slightly. "I knew there would be resistance," she admitted, "but I also believed you could rise above it. You have qualities they don't see yet, qualities I saw when I chose you." Even frowned, still unsure whether her words were meant to reassure him or justify her decision. "What qualities? I'm just me, ordinary." "You underestimate yourself," Lyra replied firmly. "You adapt, you listen, and you care, not because you want something in return, but because it's who you are. That is rare, even among my people." Her explanation gave Even pause. For so long, he'd seen himself as insignificant, someone destined to blend into the background. But now, he wondered if Lyra's perspective might hold some truth. Maybe his ability to observe quietly, to empathize without seeking recognition, truly did set him apart. It was a daunting thought, but also empowering. The next challenge came swiftly. The elders announced that Even must undergo a series of trials designed to test his fitness as a companion. These trials, they explained, were not just physical tests, but evaluations of intelligence, creativity, and emotional resilience. Failure would mean rejection, not only for Even, but potentially for all future exchanges with humans. Success, however, could pave the way for greater cooperation between their species. Even felt the weight of expectation pressing down on him once again. This time, though, he resolved to face it head-on. With Lyra's guidance, he prepared for each trial, drawing strength from her quiet confidence and his own determination. The first trial took place in a vast arena filled with shifting obstacles. Walls moved unpredictably, floors tilted at odd angles, and light patterns created illusions that disoriented the senses. Even's task was simple in theory: navigate the maze within a set time limit. In practice, it was anything but easy. Each step required focus, adaptability, and quick thinking. At one point, Even found himself trapped between two closing walls, his heart pounding as panic threatened to take over. But then he remembered Lyra's advice. Trust your instincts. Taking a deep breath, he spotted a narrow gap overhead and climbed through just in time. When he emerged victorious, cheers erupted from the gathered crowd. Even Kale, The skeptical young Scytherian, who had once accused Even of weakness, nodded grudgingly in approval. Though Even didn't let himself celebrate too soon, he knew harder challenges lay ahead. The second trial tested creativity. Even was placed in a chamber filled with raw materials, crystals, glowing threads, and pools of liquid light. His task was to create something meaningful using only these elements. At first, he struggled, unsure where to begin. Then he remembered moments from Earth, the laughter of friends, the warmth of family gatherings, and channeled those memories into his work. Using the glowing threads, he wove a tapestry depicting interconnected figures holding hands, symbolizing unity and connection. When he presented it to the judges, their expressions softened, and one elder remarked, "This speaks to our values better than we anticipated." By the third trial, Even faced his greatest test yet, a simulation designed to measure emotional resilience. He was placed in a virtual scenario where he had to make difficult choices under pressure. One scene involved saving a group of injured Scytherians while leaving others behind. Another forced him to confront his deepest fears, including abandonment and failure. Each decision weighed heavily on him, but Even approached them with compassion and clarity. He prioritized helping those in need, even when it meant personal sacrifice. When the final trial concluded, Even collapsed onto the ground, exhausted but proud. Around him, the crowd murmured in approval. For the first time since arriving on Scytherus, he felt a glimmer of acceptance, not just from Lyra, but from her people as well. That night, as Evan rested in his quarters, Lyra visited him unexpectedly. She sat beside him, her golden skin glowing softly in the dim light. "You've done well," she said quietly. "Better than I expected." Even chuckled weakly. "You sound surprised." "I am," Lyra admitted with a small smile. "Not because I doubted you, but because you've shown me things I didn't fully understand before. Humanity's potential. It's greater than I imagined." Her words filled Even with a sense of purpose. He wasn't just proving himself for his sake, or for Lyra's. He was forging a bridge between worlds. Whatever happened next, he knew he was ready to face it. The final trial loomed over Even like a storm cloud, heavy with anticipation and uncertainty. It was the culmination of everything he had endured so far. His journey to Scytherus, the cultural clashes, the whispered doubts about his worthiness. And it would decide not only his fate, but also the future of humanity's relationship with Lyra's people. The stakes couldn't be higher. Lyra accompanied him to the trial site, her presence both comforting and unnerving. She walked silently beside him, her expression unreadable as they approached the arena. Unlike the previous trials, this one wasn't contained within walls or simulated environments. Instead, it took place in an open expanse at the edge of a shimmering forest, where towering crystalline trees swayed gently under the lavender sky. The air buzzed with energy, and Even could feel the weight of countless eyes watching from afar. Elders, council members, and ordinary citizens who had gathered to witness the outcome. When they reached the center of the clearing, an elder stepped forward, his glowing skin brighter than the others. His voice resonated in Even's mind, calm yet commanding. "This is the trial of unity," he announced. "It will test your ability to act selflessly for the greater good. Fail, and you will prove unworthy of our trust. Succeed, and you may earn a place among us." Even swallowed hard, his palms damp with nervousness. "What do I have to do?" he asked, his voice steady despite the knot in his stomach. The elder gestured toward the forest. "You must venture into the heart of the Luminara Grove, where a sacred artifact lies hidden. Retrieving it will require courage, wisdom, and sacrifice. But beware, the grove is alive, and it will challenge you in ways you cannot predict." Before Even could ask more questions, Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder. Her touch was light, but it grounded him. "You can do this," she said softly, her words echoing in his thoughts. "Trust yourself." With that, Even stepped into the grove alone. The moment he crossed the threshold, The world around him shifted. The trees seemed to pulse with life, their crystals emitting soft, rhythmic glows. Strange creatures flitted between the branches, their forms translucent and ethereal. The air hummed with a melody that felt almost hypnotic, drawing Evan deeper into the forest. As he ventured further, the challenges began. At first, they were subtle, a path that disappeared beneath his feet, forcing him to find another way. Whispers that echoed through the trees, tempting him to turn back. But soon, the obstacles grew more intense. A narrow bridge stretched across a chasm filled with swirling mist. As Evan stepped onto it, the planks began to crumble beneath his weight. Panic surged through him, but he forced himself to focus, leaping from one stable section to the next until he reached the other side. Deeper still, he encountered illusions designed to exploit his fears. He found himself standing in his old office on Earth, surrounded by stacks of paperwork and the droning voices of coworkers. For a moment, he hesitated, tempted to stay in the familiar monotony. But then he remembered why he was here, not just for himself, but for something greater. Shaking off the illusion, he pressed onward. The final challenge came when Evan reached the heart of the grove. There, nestled among the roots of a massive crystal tree, lay the artifact, a small orb that pulsed with a warm, golden light. But as he reached for it, the ground trembled, and a colossal creature emerged from the shadows. It resembled a hybrid of a wolf and a bird, its body covered in iridescent feathers, and its eyes blazing with intelligence. The creature didn't attack immediately. Instead, it circled Evan, studying him with an intensity that made his skin prickle. Evan knew instinctively that brute force wouldn't work here. He held his ground, meeting the creature's gaze without flinching. Slowly, he extended his hand, palm up, in a gesture of peace. "I'm not your enemy," he said aloud, though he doubted the creature understood human speech. "I'm here to help." For a tense moment, nothing happened. Then, to Evan's astonishment, the creature lowered its head and nudged his hand gently. The connection was immediate. A flood of emotions and images rushed into Evan's mind, showing him glimpses of the grove's history, its struggles, and its hopes. He realized the creature was testing not his strength, but his empathy. With trembling hands, he picked up the orb, feeling its warmth spread through him like sunlight. When Evan returned to the clearing, the crowd erupted into murmurs of surprise and admiration. Even Kale, who had been so openly hostile before, looked impressed. The elder who had introduced the trial approached Evan, his expression solemn. "You have passed," he declared. "Not only did you retrieve the artifact, but you demonstrated compassion and ingenuity. You are worthy." Relief washed over Evan, followed by a wave of pride. He turned to Lyra, who stood nearby, her eyes shining with quiet triumph. For the first time, he saw genuine approval in her gaze, not just as a representative of her people, but as someone who believed in him personally. However, the victory wasn't without consequences. Later that evening, as Evan rested in his quarters, Lyra confided in him about the growing tension within her society. "My decision to choose you has angered some factions," she admitted. "They see it as a threat to our traditions. If things escalate, it could put us both in danger." Evan frowned. Concern etched on his face. "What happens if they try to stop you?" Lyra hesitated before responding. "Then we must show them that change is not something to fear. Together." Her words ignited a spark of determination in Evan. He had come too far to give up now. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he would face them alongside Lyra, not just for himself, but for the promise of unity between their worlds. As the night deepened, and the stars above Exetheris twinkled like diamonds, Evan felt a renewed sense of purpose. This wasn't just his story anymore. It was a shared journey, one that held the potential to reshape the future for both humans and Cytherians alike. The aftermath of the final trial brought a mix of celebration and tension to Exetheris. Evan's success had silenced many of his detractors, earning him a newfound respect among Lyra's people. The elders acknowledged his achievements publicly, declaring that humanity's potential for connection and growth was undeniable. Yet beneath the surface, dissent simmered. Some factions within Scytherian society still viewed Even as an outsider, a disruption to their traditions. Whispers of rebellion reached Even's ears, but he tried not to let them weigh him down. He had proven himself in the trials, and now it was time to focus on what truly mattered, building bridges between worlds. Lyra stood firmly by Even's side during this uncertain period. Her unwavering support gave him strength, even as she faced her own challenges. Choosing Evan had been an act of defiance against the rigid expectations placed upon her by her lineage, and some of her peers questioned whether she was fit to continue representing their people. But Lyra refused to back down. Change is necessary, she told Even one evening as they walked along the glowing river near her home. If we cling only to what is familiar, we risk losing sight of who we are meant to become. Even nodded thoughtfully, reflecting on how much he had grown since leaving Earth. When he first stepped onto the alien ship, he had been overwhelmed by fear and self-doubt. Now, he felt a quiet confidence, a belief that he could contribute something meaningful, not just to Lyra's world, but to humanity as well. His journey wasn't just about survival, it was about transformation. Together, Even and Lyra devised a plan to address the lingering tensions. They proposed creating a shared space where humans and Scytherians could interact freely, a kind of intergalactic exchange program designed to foster understanding, rather than merely trading resources or companionship. The idea sparked mixed reactions. Some elders embraced it as a bold step forward, while others dismissed it as naive. But Lyra argued passionately for its merits, pointing out that true progress came from collaboration, not isolation. To demonstrate the feasibility of their vision, Even and Lyra organized a gathering at the heart of Scytheris. Representatives from both species were invited to participate in activities that highlighted their shared values: art, music, storytelling, and problem-solving exercises. Even played a key role in facilitating these interactions, using his experiences to bridge gaps in communication and perspective. Slowly but surely, barriers began to break down. Humans marveled at the beauty of Scytherian culture, while Scytherians discovered the resilience and creativity of humanity. One particularly memorable moment occurred during a joint performance. A group of human musicians collaborated with Scytherian dancers to create a piece that blended Earth's melodies with the fluid grace of Scytherian movement. As the audience watched, mesmerized by the harmony unfolding before them, Even caught Lyra's eye. She smiled softly, her glowing eyes filled with pride. In that instant, Even realized how far they had come, not just as individuals, but as partners working toward a common goal. Despite the progress, challenges remained. Dissenters continued to voice their opposition, warning that integrating humans into Scytherian society would dilute their identity. Even and Lyra knew they couldn't force everyone to accept their vision overnight. Change took time, patience, and persistence, but every small victory, a human child laughing with "I hid," an elder, a scientist sharing knowledge with an alien counterpart, was a step in the right direction. As weeks turned into months, Even found himself more deeply connected to Scytheris than he ever imagined possible. The shimmering landscapes, the bioluminescent rivers, and the crystalline structures no longer felt foreign. They felt like home. And yet, there were moments when he missed Earth. Memories of rainy afternoons, crowded streets, and late-night conversations with friends surfaced unexpectedly, filling him with nostalgia. He wondered if he would ever return, and if so, what kind of person he would be when he did. One day, as Even and Lyra sat together beneath the lavender sky, she broached the subject. "Do you miss your world?" she asked gently, her voice carrying a hint of vulnerability. Even hesitated before answering. "Sometimes," he admitted, "but I found something here that I didn't know I was looking for. A sense of purpose, a chance to make a difference. If I went back, I wouldn't be the same person I was before." Lyra studied him intently, her glowing eyes searching his face. "You don't have to choose one world over the other," she said finally. "There is room for both in your heart and in ours." Her words resonated deeply with Even. He realized that his journey wasn't about abandoning his past. It was about embracing a future that included all parts of himself. With Lyra's encouragement, he began reaching out to Earth through telepathic transmissions facilitated by Cytherian technology. He shared stories of his experiences, emphasizing the importance of unity and empathy. To his surprise, the messages were met with enthusiasm. People across the globe responded with curiosity and hope, eager to learn more about the possibilities of intergalactic cooperation. In time, Even became a symbol of what could be achieved when two vastly different worlds came together, not out of obligation, but out of mutual respect and understanding. Lyra, too, found renewed purpose in her role as a bridge between species. Together, they inspired others to imagine a future where differences weren't obstacles but opportunities for growth. As Even stood on a hill overlooking the radiant expanse of Cytheris, he felt a profound sense of gratitude. He had started as an ordinary man, chosen almost arbitrarily by an alien girl, but through courage, compassion, and determination, he had become something extraordinary, a catalyst for change, a beacon of hope for both his species and hers. And as Lyra joined him, her hand brushing lightly against his, Even knew that whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. Their story was just beginning, a testament to the power of connection, the beauty of diversity, and the endless potential of what could be achieved when hearts and minds opened to new possibilities.